Hi everyone, I hope you're well, thanks for clicking on the video. This is episode 4 of my MMA show. Haven't done one of these in a while, but obviously with it being the night before the first UFC pay-per-view of the year, I thought it'd be the perfect time to do it. As a whole, I'm not too stoked for this card, if I'm being entirely honest. It's not the thickest card, not too much name value. However, the main event is a fight that I'm more looking forward to than any other fight in recent memory, right? And I'm including like the big stars in that because on paper, like when people ask me about this fight, like what do you think of it? I honestly say to them, this is the perfect fight happening at the perfect time. We have a guy in Sean Strickland who's someone we've watched grow up in front of our eyes, right? He's been fighting in the UFC for a long time now, and we always know him as the same guy, right? He shows up and he fights his heart out every single time. You know what you get with Sean, right? You know, he'll come forward, he'll put that pressure on you with a stiff jab and 1-2, like brawler-esque hooks to the body and head, and he does that. You can bet your house that that's how he's going to fight regardless of his opponent. But then he goes out there in his last fight against the champion of the world in Israel Adesanya, and again he does what he always does, but he does it in a way that was just so pristine, so crisp, so sharp, didn't make many mistakes. And from now on we're looking at Sean Strickland like a guy who's like, wow, if that version of him can continue to show up to these fights, I think he matches up well against the majority of the top contenders in the middleweight division, and we all have to give him that respect now because of who he just defeated, you know what I mean? Israel Adesanya, coming off maybe the biggest victory in his career in Alex Pereira, right? And then we have a guy in Dricus Du Plessis who somehow continues to extend his very impressive UFC win streak to, like, I believe he's on a 6-fight win streak now, and then in his last fight looking more impressive than ever than getting a dominant victory over Robert Whittaker, who everyone unanimously agrees is the dark horse of the division, always has been since, you know, the entire Adesanya reign. And Dricus has a bunch of finishes sprinkled in this win streak, you know what I mean, including in his victory over Robert Whittaker. Like, we have to talk about that, right? He looked incredible. He did what nobody does to Whittaker, which is just go out there, apply that pressure, and make Robert Whittaker quit, you know what I mean? He broke Robert Whittaker inside of 2 rounds. That's damn near unheard of since the Adesanya fight the first time. So that just shows you the kind of echelon that Dricus seems to be on at this moment in time, and the kind of respect you have to put on his name, especially coming into this fight with what is the biggest fight in his career against Sean Strickland for the belt. Now, how do I think this fight is going to go? I think I have a rough idea, right? It's funny because Dricus has this style where he seems to look equally terrible at some point in all of his fights, right? You kind of watch his style, the way he moves, you know, he just kind of plods along, almost looks like he's going to fall over his own feet at times. And, you know, he throws combinations that are really not fluid. They don't flow well. You know, he doesn't look like a very technical striker on the feet. However, he fights so damn hard and so ugly to the point of where that's why he looks so exhausted at some points in his fight, right? Because he just fights so hard and so ugly that eventually it breaks these guys, even if it's not the most technical and maybe not be the most pretty style to watch. But he goes out there and he makes it an ugly fight. He turns it into a dog fight to the extent that even the likes of Robert Whittaker is forcefully broken inside of 2 rounds. You know what I mean? So you have to respect Dricus' style. And I do think he's going to come in against Sean Strickland and wrestle as much as he can, sprinkle in the takedowns when they arise. But I just think Sean has a style right now. And like I said earlier, if the version of Sean that fought Adesanya can show up to this fight, I really believe he can put Dricus on the back foot, it's important for Sean to stay calm. You know, he stands so tall with that Philly shell that perhaps if he gets a bit carried away with his combinations, especially against the cage, I can picture Dricus really shooting and diving for his legs. Sean's got good wrestling. I think he'll be fine if he does get taken down. I think he'll manage to avoid the submission and get back to his feet. But I think if he can maintain that pressure like he did with Izzy throughout this whole fight, Dricus hasn't been in a 5-round fight in the UFC. I think he's had a couple previously outside of the UFC, but that's not the same. He's fighting a version of Sean Strickland right now that, I mean, have you seen the kind of shape he's in? He looks to be in the best shape of his career, and coming off this massive victory over Adesanya, I just think right now he has what it takes to, I'm going to say he's going to finish Dricus somewhere. I can't believe I'm saying finish, which is crazy, right? Because Sean for the longest time was a guy who, we never looked at him as this guy who's going to go out there and get the finish. I'll just say that. But I think with Dricus' history of getting tired in fights and how hard he goes, I think he's going to get tired within the third. Towards the 3rd round, I think Dricus will be looking gassed. And if Sean can apply that pressure like he always does, starts to extend his combinations, you know, work the jab and the 1-2 for the first couple rounds, and like I said, by the end of the third round, into the fourth, really extend those combinations once he's got tired, once you've worn him out with his wrestling attempts, you know what I mean, because he's going to be diving for the legs, like I said, this is exhausting, so if he can avoid that for 4 rounds, I think he can get him out of there. Sean, that is. I think Sean can really hurt him when he's tired, pounce on him. Yeah, I think that's my prediction. Of course, like, Dricus fights in such a wild way that could all just be thrown out the window, and it could just be an absolute burn burner within seconds of the fight even starting, to where it's like, yo, either one of these boys can land a heavy shot and it could go either way. But if the fight plays out how I expect it to, I think Sean will get the W. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the Sean versus DDP fight coming up tomorrow night. If you guys have any thoughts about the fight as well, leave a comment down below, I'll get back to you when I have the time. But we had some other fight news in the world recently, right, this week, regarding UFC 300, and that was the announcement of Max Holloway versus Justin Gaethje for the BMF belt. So yeah, obviously a massive fan of both of these guys, right? If you're a fight fan, it's impossible not to love and appreciate what both of these guys do. They're like some of the best at what they do in the world, period. And this is most definitely going to be a barn burner, but man, I am so concerned for Max Holloway, right? I think about his fight with Dustin Poirier the second time, right? In recent memory, I think maybe 3-4 years ago, roughly. It didn't look great for Max. It seemed as though when every time Dustin would land a shot, they just seemed to wear on Max far more than what his shots wore on Dustin. I think obviously because Max, when he fought Dustin, he didn't take the time to properly move up in weight, you know? Whereas now, I think hopefully he's known about this fight for a little while and he's had some time to put on at least a couple, 2, 3, 4 pounds of muscle. I'd like to see that ideally, because I think if he's going to go out there and fight this version of Justin Gaethje, who again, much like Sean Strickland, he's looking the best of his career right now. He looks so damn good, Justin Gaethje. I mean, the finish he just got over Dustin Poirier is one of the more impressive finishes we've seen in the UFC in a long time, because, you know, Dustin Poirier is a fucking dog, and you don't just go out there and finish him in that fashion. It's crazy. So, as hard as Justin Gaethje hits, I can't help but worry for Max, you know. He's renowned for his insane chin and being able to take a shot, and that's actually what makes me worry about this fight even more, because I think if he is able to withstand the punishment that I believe Justin Gaethje is going to put on him, you know, it could be much like a Justin Gaethje-Tony Ferguson fight where, you know, Tony has never looked the same since Justin Gaethje, the kind of punishment that he withstood. I don't want to see that happen to Max Holloway. I think, so just to give my prediction for this fight, just to be blatant, I do think Justin Gaethje, if he doesn't win by a decision, he'll finish Max within 4 rounds. I could see it happening in the 4th. But also, you know, the crazy thing about Max's style is that perhaps, you know, maybe he does withstand that punishment, maybe his chin does hold up, and then we see him somewhere in the middle of the 3rd, 4th round, you know, his cardio is insane, and he just really starts to put it on Justin Gaethje. Much like, to be fair to Max, there was a moment much like that happened in the second Dustin Poirier fight where, you know, it was looking like, I think it was the 3rd round, it was like, man, Max is really, you know, he's really getting going right now, and it's looking like he might steal this fight. Obviously, Dustin was able to turn it around, but I could absolutely see that happening in the Gaethje fight where it's like, man, Max has stayed in there. Justin's doing that thing where he uses the high guard and he curls up, he's looking tired. Max is piecing him up to the head and body. You know, he could steal the fight that way, but if I had to give my prediction, I would definitely lean more towards Gaethje getting the finish, if not decision win. It's also worth noting, I think, that Jim Miller's been booked to fight on UFC 300. He just won recently, and, you know, it's a big deal. He fought on UFC 100, he fought on UFC 200. He's a veteran that's been around for a long time. I believe he might have the most wins inside of the UFC. You know, it's up there with him and, like, Charles Oliveira. They've booked him against Bobby Green, though, in typical UFC fashion, where they're just like, yeah, you want a beautiful sunset goodbye where everything ends in roses and sunshine? Well, poo-poo, here's a real tough matchup for you, good luck. Because Bobby Green, even though he's coming off that vicious stoppage defeat against Jalen Turner, he is real slick on the feet, and Jim Miller, although he is somehow managing to get these victories later on in his career, he definitely doesn't move like he used to. He's got that kind of 40-year-old movement to him, you know what I mean, where it's not smooth, it's looking like it kind of hurts him a little bit to throw these punches, not looking too good in the elbow and knees, and I think Bobby moves well enough on the feet to where he'll be able to land enough clean shots on Jim Miller to bring the fight to a close before the 3rd round finishes. So yeah, I believe Bobby Green will get the victory in that fight. 2024 is looking to be an amazing year of fights, right? We've got the UFC 300 coming up, the pay-per-view tomorrow night. Sean O'Malley's pay-per-view looks like it's stacked from bottom to top. Also, Conor McGregor is going to be making a return this year. There's a lot to look forward to in the world of fighting, the world of MMA in particular. Of course, boxing's doing fantastic as well at the moment, but UFC is really they are going above and beyond. For now though guys, that brings us to the end of the video. If you enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel for more content just like this. Leave a comment down below if you have any thoughts and opinions. I'd love to get back to you when I have the time, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks guys.